partner colleague, Mr. Padipto, who will also take a 10 minutes of session after my session, and after that we will have a Q&A. Okay. So today, actually, what we are going to be talk about, as we have a different audience in this webinar with the different experiences. We will start with a small basic of a cloud, and then we will actually move to the critical factors to identify a best cloud service provider. So the agenda of this is to how you can and what are the pointers you will look at to evaluate any cloud provider. So, and which are very critical for anybody to select when they adopt a cloud services. So as I hope everybody can see my screen with the title of the current IT cost curve. And see, this curve is all about how your business is growing. So if any organization start a business, or any large organization start maybe the new initiatives or new businesses, obviously the blue line or the blue curve which is going, it's showing how the business is growing, the first year, second year, third year, fourth, and how basically our IT investment grow along with our business. So this is our traditional IT growth, the traditional pattern of IT growth, where we, when we actually start a business, we end up with the spending of buying a new servers, new licenses, maybe it's the implementation of some large software and all that kind of a thing. So as our business change, our IT needs also get changed. So when IT needs get changed, we have to be also invest sometime more or sometime less. But end of the couple of months or years, we end up with spending a lot of cost in a traditional IT way, where we are buying the hardwares on a capex and buying all the IT resources on a capex, and maybe we are utilizing the first year the full resources, and next year maybe because of business goes slightly down or up, we are not utilizing 100% what we have invested. So that's our traditional, the way we work along with as per our business needs in our IT. So there are some other pains also. What any organization faces is like, along with the business, they have to many times increase the bandwidth, but the actual utilization not happen. As the business is growing, growing at a upper side or going downside, the investment of IT will be always relied. So if its business is going down, all the IT resources, the servers, licenses, they're not utilizing as we have invested into. So these are all different challenges. Normally in a traditional IT we face it. So how we can come out with this, all challenges are and these issues are. So we can actually come out with these issues when we actually adopt a cloud computing. So if you look at the red dotted line curve, it shows the cloud computing goes along with the business. As your business grows, the blue line grows, the cloud computing, the investment on a IT through cloud is also growing according to that. If your business goes down, your investment also goes down. So you're actually, there's no risk for you, or there's no capex investment. You're doing it along with the cloud computing when you're actually using a cloud computing infrastructure. So that's why the cloud computing helps us to, as the business grows, the investment into IT also, and it can help us to scale up or scale down different IT resources. So what is cloud computing? So obviously everybody, many audience people understand what is cloud computing, but there are many joined as freshers also. So that's why we're talking about what's a cloud computing. This is just a mode of delivery of services on a virtualized and scalable platform using internet technologies. So obviously how the cloud comes up. So cloud was actually the basics of a cloud is a virtualization, where we actually virtualize the different hardware resources and make them to utilize as best as possible. And what are the different characteristics of a cloud computing is? It's like it provides a flexibility, it provides operational scalability, it provides a performance, it provides a different SLAs. Like, so as and as when we want, we can increase or demand the different IT resources on a cloud computing. Okay. So what does it mean for the customers? What does it mean for the customer is no purchase of IT equipment. So you don't need to buy any IT equipment when you go and adopt a cloud, because there's a virtualized machine you get it, which is we call a VM, a virtual machine. And no purchase of software licenses. Why? Because everything bundled into a software in a cloud computing as a service. So you don't need to buy any software licenses. So these licenses also on a as pay as you use it a model. So like you can have a SAP kind of a application, or you can have a different HRMS and different Salesforce applications on a cloud on a pay-per-use model, where you are not paying actually upfront the licenses cost. So that's why we call no purchase of software licenses. No DC build. Also, you don't need to build any data center for this, or you don't need to take a co-location, means taking a space in some data center. I call it co-location. So you don't need to co-locate your servers anywhere, because cloud takes care of everything. So these are all the investment areas you actually minimize is when you go on a cloud computing. It's really help us the faster implementation rollout. Why? Because when you order for the server, it takes at least 45 days to 1.5 months to deliver at your location. So, but cloud is available immediately. So they can take a cloud, or maybe some service providers take some time to adopt to provide you a cloud services. So, but it will be always the faster than any traditional buying a hardware timelines. Okay. There's no depreciation on this, because obviously there's no hardware. We are buying it as a capex, as a investing in buying a hardware. We are actually taking a services, so there's no end of life of a hardware, and there's no depreciation on a hardware. So which helps the corporates to do a lot of calculations as per the business growing it, okay, and also get a benefit into our balance sheets. Easier change control to manage regulation changes. So as and when any regulation changes happen, it can be easily controlled and changed in the overall environment of a cloud. And it's fastly, whatever the change happen, it reflects at the user end. The payment mode is a pay-per-use model. So as you're utilizing the cloud, you're paying for that. So there are standard three kind of cloud services. There are a lot of different kind of services available in the cloud nowadays, but these are the three standard services which belongs to our infrastructure, software, and the platform. So one is the IaaS, which we call infrastructure as a service. The second is software as a service, which is SaaS, and the last one is the PaaS, which is the platform as a service. So these services can be opted separately as a standard service, and can be bought as a bundle service also. It depends on the cloud service provider how they are offering it. There are many cloud service providers who only offer infrastructure as a service, but they don't offer software as a service or platform as a service. But there are cloud service providers who provide maybe out of these two services, or maybe a bundle all the services. Okay. So these services also actually, if you look at the software as a service or the platform as a service, these services are used for a particular purposes. Like infrastructure as a service, we only get an infrastructure. There's only compute we are getting it. Like we are getting a virtual server, we are getting a virtualized core, RAM, bandwidth, storage. That all things comes under the infrastructure as a service. But when we talk about the software as a service, it's actually a software we are getting. So we are not concerned about what infrastructure is lying behind the server, behind the software. So, but we are actually utilizing a software which give us a performance as we require and as we demand, and the infrastructure scale up, the service provider scale up as per the need of a customer itself. A platform as a service, it's actually a service which used to develop new softwares. It's a platform where we get a different kind of software development tools which we can utilize to develop a new packages and new softwares. And once we do that, when we complete our project or develop a software, we just can simply leave this service. And if we are utilizing, suppose if somebody needs a .NET software for the 6 months for the making some particular application, they can utilize the platform as a service only for that much of a period and pay for that much of a period. So they don't need to buy any servers and the software licenses for that. They just simply utilize as a service and create whatever the projects they want to be created and just leave that service and pay till what the duration they have utilized this service. So what are the critical factors to select a cloud service provider? So the major agenda of this today's session is to enable everyone how you can select the best cloud service provider. And you will not face any challenges and you will not face any problems in future after selecting a cloud service provider. And these are very critical points which you have to be focused on, because the many points the people, the customers don't focus it, okay? And end of day, it's a risk to a business. It's a risk to the application which you are, or the infrastructure which you are running on a cloud. So the basic checkpoints before you select the cloud service provider is you have to be well versed about the credibility of a cloud service provider. You have to understand that what kind of a cloud service provider, when they started. So for that, you have to go on their website, review it, what kind of a case studies they have done. You have to speak to a customers at least once with a couple of customers of that service provider. And also you have to be deeply read their legal agreements and the terms and conditions. So these are some basic checkpoints which you have to be look at when you start looking at cloud service provider. There are a lot of other pointers which we'll go and talk about, but these are the points you, if you note down these points, it really help you out in the future to understand and select the best cloud service provider. There are some more basic pointers which really help you to understand is that the right cloud service provider you're selecting or not. You have to look at the pricing plan of cloud service provider. So when you say a plan, means it should be very simple and clear. It should be understandable by anybody who is a technical or non-technical. Why? Because if there's any plan which is a really complex kind of a plan, then you may end up paying more money to a cloud service provider. So take example, the many cloud service providers says, I will give you an infrastructure with a max 300 GB of a storage, okay? But overall package price, you look and you feel it's very cheaper. But when you when you consume overall 300 GB of storage and you buying the end of a new storage, you found the cost of the 1 GB itself is a very huge, okay? And also sometimes they say I have a bandwidth which only allow you to data out, but there's a charge for data in, okay? Or there's no charge for data in, but there's a charge for data out. These kind of a complex environments or the price plans really make you end up paying more as per your business needs. There may be a possibility where you don't need these kind of services, then you can simply go and opt it. Okay. So it is actually very necessary to start looking and understanding the service provider in terms of how actually they build their packages. Okay. And it's very important to meet up your cloud service provider salesperson, or maybe you speak to a cloud service provider and you understand what kind of a services they are providing, a deep dive, what kind of the organization is, what kind of the facilities they have. Okay. So as you build a relationship with the salesperson help you out. Also, as they become a single point of a contact for you in the future and help you to whenever you face any challenges related to cloud service to resolve that. Okay. You have to also look at the service provider. Does the service provider offer online sign-up or click-through agreement or agreement on a legal document? These kind of services. Because when you actually go and opt these services, you should have these kind of agreements in place. So the service provider will be committed to you to provide whatever they have committed as an offering for the duration of what you have opted. Okay. You have to also look at when you actually go and opt these cloud services, is that the setup of a virtualization, the virtual VM or virtual machine, is a straightforward, or is there a complex activity to set up a virtual machine? Because if it's a complex activity, obviously the cloud service provider is not giving you an actual cloud. Why? Because they are actually establishing the sort of a small cloud setup for you as per your needs are. Okay, so that should not happen. It should be a very simple and fastly deployment of a cloud service provider to give you a virtual machine. Okay, so as I'm actually talking about the virtual machine, I'll also explain you what is that before I jump on other points. So it's basically a virtual environment which virtualized our hardware and segregate different VMs into a hardware environment. So which is very important. And you have to also take care of these all segregation of a different environments should happen in the cloud service provider end, and they will give you proofs of that, so your data is not leaked to each other. The next point is, does the provider have the migration scheme and provide assistance with the migrations? That's very important. So you have to check before, this is a very important point. So is that cloud service provider giving you help in terms of professional services, in terms of managed services, to help you to move your environment from a legacy data center to a cloud data center, or a cloud data center, cloud service provider to another cloud service provider. Because if they're not providing this facility, you will end up with a lot of efforts what you have actually spent it to creating that environment. Suppose I have created my own data center with a tool of a VMware, okay, where we have virtualized the environment. So if the cloud service provider provides the professional services or the managed services and support your current virtual environment, you can simply migrate from your legacy data center to a cloud environment, which really help you and cut down a lot of efforts, costs, and time to migrate to a new cloud service provider. Okay, so that is very important. So and very important to look at any cloud service provider who you opted. They should have a services, or they should have a partner, or maybe some SI partner or the services partner who will provide you services on behalf of that cloud service provider, because they understand the environment well. They understand what kind of the challenges face up in a transition. So that's something which you have to always look at. You have to also check with the cloud service provider when you migrate, are they going to give you an image of your environment, so you can simply migrate that image from one place to another and deploy successfully. Okay, because if you don't have that image of an environment, then you end up to doing a fresh configurations of your all applications, servers in another environment. So when why this image always needs it? Because it carries all kind of configurations and the different setups, and it actually helps us to seamlessly migrate to another location. So these images, it's same like in a traditional environment when we used to call up, I'm doing a ghost copy of my hard disk. It's like what we have done is always we copied the ghost copy of all the configurations and the setups into a ghost setup and transfer to another server. So this is a similar kind of a thing which helps us to create an image of our existing server environment or virtualized environment and port it to another service provider or the new service provider seamlessly without a less effort and less time. So the next point is what cloud product offering the service provider is giving you. Okay, obviously one, they provide you a very simple cloud setups. Okay, which is a standard cloud setup, you will get it. But you have to also look at as the requirement of a business or as the requirement of the corporate compliance. Are these cloud service providers give you a dedicated network or the different network settings in their cloud setup or not? That is a very critical point. It depends on the business to business. That point you have to be look at when you select any cloud service provider. You have to look at the instances, the virtual instances. We started and stopped at will. Okay, so the virtual VM which we are taking it, the virtual machine, can I stop that virtual machine when I'm not utilizing it? Because I can save I can save a lot of money when I'm not utilizing that VM. Can I stop and start these VMs as my will if that service is available? It really helps us to safeguard a lot of efforts and the money is there. Okay, because if you say I will just enter the virtual machine, obviously I have to recreate that virtual machine, which is again efforts. Or if I'm able to stop and start, I'm not dismantling my virtual machine and simply stopping and not paying when I'm not utilizing it. Okay, so that service is really helped in terms of saving when you're not utilizing any virtual infrastructure. So the next, sorry. So the next point is what are the specs of the largest computer instance offered by each provider? So you have to look at what is the maximum size of a compute. When I say compute means a virtual server, the service provider can provide you, because today you may start with a 2 cores, which is the processor. The core is the processor, 2 cores and maybe a 2 GB of RAM and 100 GB of storage. But can you go up to a 100 cores? Can you go up to a 100 GB of RAM or TB of RAM? So all that you have to look at when you select your cloud service provider. And obviously you have to look at cloud service provider as per your business need or as per your need of a business. You have to look at that. But it's very important to check what the environment capability of this cloud service provider to give you a maximum size of a compute. Okay, if they are not able to give you the scale up the compute in future, you will end up to switch over your cloud service provider to another one from the existing, which is actually again a time wasting and stopping your business activities and spending more money for the migration and other activities, which is a pain. So you have to also look at does the provider have a live migration capability in to ensure high availability during maintenance periods. So maybe you have a maintenance activities are going on, or maybe the maintenance activity at the cloud service provider is going on, but is that your environment is getting affected by the time, or you're seamlessly getting access of your environment and services are working fine? So you have to look at when they do that, is that a longer shutdown happen at the service provider? They take a shutdown at your level for an hour or half an hour or more time, and parallelly they provide you with another environment to run your environment seamlessly. So that's something which you have to be look at when you select any cloud service provider. what hypervisor does the provider use it? So let's say hypervisor is nothing. It's basically a tool which help you to create a virtual machine. The hypervisors can be the OEMs like VMware, Microsoft, or Oracle. These kind of OEMs who provide hypervisor tools which help you to virtualize your environment and create a virtual machine. So you have to look at the service provider giving you the all kind of a hypervisor compatibility and the services, or they are strict to only VMware or only Microsoft or only Oracle. So that's something which you have to look at, and you have to decide when you select any cloud service provider. What storage options are supported by the provider? So this is very important. So why this is very important is like because you are using a different kind of application, and when you use these applications, every application comes with a different storage needs, and there's a speed of a storage of an input output of a data also there, which we call the IOs. Okay, so that's really critical for us in terms of performance of accessibility of a data. So if they use a NAS as a storage, or the SAS as a storage, or SSD as a storage, so we have to look at that, what is our business needs are, what is our application needs are, and what kind of a performance we need it. And so is that according to that performances? Is that cloud service provider giving us a different kind of a storage option or not? If they are, so obviously there is a difference of a cost and the performance of that, but obviously you will take it maybe a SAS storage for a particular application and the NAS storage for a particular application where the performance issue is not much. Okay, the basic applications are like your email or your basic MIS tools can be run on a NAS storage versus your ERPs needs a SAS kind of, or SSIDs, SAS or the different new technology storages are required. Okay. What is the largest storage volume supported? So when you look at the storage options of a service provider, you have to also look at what kind of a largest volume of a storage also they can give you. Because if you're using your traditional data center, you actually end up creating a large volumes of a data, which when you actually migrate, there will be many times you will face the challenges because the service provider doesn't support that kind of a large volume storages. So you have to look at, as per your needs, what kind of a largest volumes they can provide you. Is that the block storage automatically replicate into a separate availability zones? If not, is there a fee? So these services are required when you actually using any application where the data is not accessing regularly. It may lying idle, and you wanted to move to some other environment when you're not using it. So you have to also look at the pointers when you select a cloud service provider. Are they giving you a snapshots of a storage or not? This really help you if any disaster happens. Suppose suddenly my application goes down, or suddenly there's some crash happens in my environment, or some problem happens. I can actually have a snapshot from where I can recover my data points. Okay, I can know from where I need to recover my data points. So this service is really good when you actually plan your disaster kind of environments or the needs of a business. What are the providers' protocol related to IP address, LAN topology, and WAN connectivity? This is really you can look at when actually you have a hybrid networks, or the network spreads over a different service providers and a different geos. At that time, you have to look at really deep dive of these kind of the technology needs of. Okay, how does the provider bridge between the multiple service environments within the same data center? Means I'm actually using a different service environments, and somewhere I'm using one plan, somewhere I have maybe a plan which is customized as per my need, or environment as per my need. So is that the provider able to bridge between all these things? Yes, it's very important, because end of the day, everything, all environments with a different configurations R belongs to our organization or belongs to a customer organization. So customers should get a single view of these environments, or kind of a connectivity in between these environments, and work on these environments seamlessly. So is that the load balancing capabilities provided by a cloud service provider? Yes. So you have to look at, because if they are not providing a load balancing capabilities, maybe a software load balancing or the hardware load balancing, you have to look at as per the need of your application in the business, the kind of a user loads comes on your application. It's very important. If they don't provide this, you will face a lot of challenges in terms of performance, maybe after starting working with this service provider. Managed services are provided by service providers. So this is very important. So you have to look at, is that the professional or managed services are available with this cloud service provider or not. If it's not, they should have some partners in place to help you to provide your services, because it's very critical. So suppose you may have your own team to manage it, but at the first time when you're doing a migration and first time when you're deploying at the cloud, the many organization doesn't have the IT capabilities to understand the cloud environments. So they need the services to do that. Else they end up spending the money and not utilizing the environment properly. So the next point is which we have to look at. So what are the overall product features or the value adds of a cloud service provider? Does the provider offer a GUI cloud data center management tool where I can actually scale up and scale down my environment as and when I require it, or depend on my business demand? So if that tool is available, it's really helped me to do a lot of self-service kind of activities. What level of a management does the GUI tool or control panel include? Means I can configure my environment. I can configure my virtual machine, cores, RAMs, storage, but can I also configure my own firewall settings? Can I also configure my own IPs? So these kind of features also, if the cloud service provide, so I'm actually controlling everything of my environment. It really helps me to do everything my own. And sometimes if the people doesn't understand that these kind of technologies, we end up messing this environment also. But really, if you have a technical capabilities, or you're using a professional services or managed services of a cloud service provider, or maybe the third party, really help you to control end-to-end your environment. Does the provider offer a full API with all required calls to configure, provision, scale, and deactivate infrastructure? Yes. So these tools should be integrated with the end-to-end APIs of a whole environment. And when it's integrated with the whole environment, you can control your own environment, start from a core to a network to a storage and to a different kind of a security settings. So these are some points which really help you to identify and select the cloud service provider. There are some more pointers which we have to look at when we select the cloud service provider. These are in terms of what load capabilities they can provide us. Workload capability means I'm actually putting maybe 10 users on a cloud or 1,000 users on a cloud, and there's a continuously activity happening on a cloud. So are these loads, this environment can afford it, or it can crash it? So that's something which we have to look at when we select the cloud service provider. So the first point, like, does the provider offer flexible server options to answer fluctuating capacity needs on demand? Yeah, so suppose, take example. So today I'm running an e-commerce portal where I have at daytime I have only 10 users who are accessing that portal, but the end of a day, the 1,000+ users are coming on. So is that the environment or the infrastructure is capable to handle that kind of a load? We have to look at. It should be a scale up, maybe automatically, or it scale up as and when we required, and we do scale up this environment from a backend. So if migrating an existing workload, how many IOPS and how much network bandwidth does the workload currently use? So will provider is able to accommodate these needs? We have to do, before going ahead with any cloud service provider, we have to do a load testing. We have to do a load testing of our application. We have to do a load testing of that environment with some sample of our users. And that's very important. If we don't get a results of that load testing positive as per our business needs and application, then we should not select that kind of a cloud service provider. How many IOPS and how much network bandwidth will the workload require over the next year? So we have to look at, is that cloud service provider is able to give us a scalability in a 1 year span of a time, or maybe a 6 months of span of time, or maybe a next 2 to 3 years of span of time? Are they, that kind of infrastructure is available? Are they able to scale up as in when the business grows, or they have to do a new investment, or there's no scalability plan beyond the particular loads? That all we need to be checked, or else we may end up struggling with a lot of performance issues. But does provider use enterprise grade high-speed disk SSDs, or they are using consumer grade gears? Yes. So as we discussed earlier also, this belongs to a storage, and this is very important. Are they cloud service providers giving us SSD kind of a storage capability? If yes, so are the applications like ERP and the business critical applications can get a better performance through these kind of technologies. Does the provider use Ethernet 1 GB or 10 GB or InfiniBand as its backbone network? This is very important, because really we don't know what kind of a load comes on our environment through a different networks, and the scalability of a network of that much of a load is very important. The next point which we have to look at is what kind of a data center infrastructure the cloud service provider is having it. Okay, basically the first thing which we have to look at is your business governed by a local, regional, or national body. So, like if the data center is based out in the US and you're signing agreement with a US-based cloud service provider, there's no legality in that. If there's anything happen in India, you're using it sitting in India, that cloud service provider, actually you can't do anything against that, okay? Because you're bound with that particular country legal norms. So you have to look at, before selecting a cloud service provider, where they are. Are they able, you can actually control that service provider with a different legal bonding or not? This is a very important thing which when you select a cloud service provider, you have to look at that. As India, we have different bodies to control telecom or broadcasting services, but we don't have a body to control cloud services, which is really a pain today is. So if anything happens to you, you have only one option to go legal against that cloud service provider. So another point which you have to look at is that the provider data center location is prone to a natural risk or not. So you have to look at that their data centers are in which kind of a seismic zones. Are they in a seismic zone 1, 2, 3, 4? As you know, if the data center in the seismic zone 4, then it's a high risk area, and putting your critical or your business application, maybe a non-critical business application, there's no point to putting in that kind of a data center, which are actually prone to a different kind of a natural disasters. And you know, there's a earthquake happens and there are different natural disasters happen in that particular location. So take example, if you're putting any application in a data center, which is maybe based out in Gujarat, in a high earthquake prone area, and there's no point to put it that your critical or non-critical application on that kind of a cloud service provider. So you have to also look at, does the provider offer technical specification about its infrastructure during the vetting phase of a cloud selection? So are they cloud service providers open to give you information about what kind of a storage? Are they using a EMC storage or NetApp or some local storage? Are they open to share with you these kind of information or not? If not, obviously there may be a hidden, but obviously there's a risk they end up using a very cheaper IT environment or IT infrastructure, which can harm your services later on. So how does the physical security of a provider's data center compare to the security of your current IT environment? this is very important. So as the organization is having a lot of compliances and the security compliances and the audit compliances, is it the same kind of a compliance you get it at a cloud service provider? It's very important to look at. Then you can fulfill a lot of norms of your organization in terms of security and compliances, what you have maybe globally or in India. The further different security and compliances you have to look at. The cloud service provider does a regular audits of their data centers and provide you that audit reports. And also, if it's required, allow the organization to do a third-party audits of their data center, because it really helps you out to find is there any kind of information leakage risk is there or not. Because many organizations run a business critical applications from a cloud, and it's very critical for them to do these kind of audits. And if the cloud service provider are doing a regular audits of data center, that also shows they are actually concerned about your data. They are actually concerned about your security. So that's really important and give you a confidence to run your services from that cloud data center. Does the provider offer dedicated resource to reduce the potential security risk? That's something which, as per your business needs, you have to look at. Because if your business needs says you need a dedicated firewall, then obviously you need it. So you can't be work on as a compliance issue on a shared firewall, or maybe the load kind of that where you need a dedicated firewall. So that kind of things you have to evaluate as per your need and the business or application needs. Are there redundant systems across multiple file zones to protect the data and ensure uninterrupted operations? So this is very important. So in my experience, I've seen it. The people having like in the same data center from where they're running a cloud, they have a battery bank also. Okay, if there's any fire happens in a battery or in a electricity boards, it affects and it shuts down your servers and it affects your performance and the accessibility of your environment. So these are the things which really taken care. You have to do it, evaluate when you select any cloud service provider. You have to also look at the data center of this cloud service provider is at what level. Is it tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4? These are the basically the credibility which shows it what kind of securities and the backup plans or disaster plans they have in terms of running seamlessly at their data center. So if somebody is at a tier 1 data center, that means they don't have a resiliency in place. They don't have a high availability in place. They don't have a backups of their servers in place. So that's something which you have to look at when you select any cloud service provider. How does the provider handle the delete customer data? So when you actually move out from a cloud service provider, what they have a policy in place to take care of your delete data from their environment 100%. Or by mistake, if there's any data deleted in their environment, how you can get a recovery of that. So that's something which you have to be looked at when you select any cloud service provider. There are some of the points which are related to when you select a cloud service on a support and sustenance. So what kind of a support system they have? Is that a support person available to needs of your business needs or the technical environment with the cloud service provider? Is it cloud service provider have the services to provide you support whenever you face any challenge on your environment or accessibility? These are the things that you have to look at. Like I'll give you one example. So which has happened recently with one of our customers of ours, where they took it to one of a cloud service provider who doesn't have a managed services, and suddenly their VM got restarted in a night, and nobody knows it got restarted, and the cloud service provider just put a mail, please check your environment is working fine or not, because the VM got restarted. And by the time the customer got to know in the morning, there are a lot of their own customers faced a lot of challenges with that environment because the application was not running seamlessly on that VM which got restarted. lot of configuration is got disturbed. So these kind of problems you have to look at when you select a cloud service provider. You have to also look at what kind of a billing is available, because if the cloud service provider is charging you as you're utilizing the environment, as per the hours of utilization or days of utilization or minutes or the months of utilization, because this all really matters when you depend on your business needs and the kind of the business growing is, and the need of your customers also can be. Okay. And if you're using a multiple different environments, you have to look at the cloud service provider giving you a consolidated invoicing or giving you a individual invoicing. All this depend on your needs. You can evaluate a cloud service provider. You have to also look at how stable the cloud service providers are. Because if the cloud service provider says after 1 year, I'm in a loss, I'm shutting down, that should not happen. So you always look at the stable cloud service provider and make a mandate when you sign an agreement with them. They should continue to give you services for the next 4 years or 5 years. So they are not able to stop legally, bound them to not stop their services after 1 year or 6 months. Okay, and they should have a proper funding available to grow their infrastructure as their business grows and the needs of the customers. The point which you have to look at is the service level agreement. So what kind of agreements or SLAs these service providers are committing you? Because if they are committing you a SLA like maybe a 4 times 9s, maybe you are very happy. Or the 5 times 9s, you are very happy. But this SLA for the network availability, environment availability, data center availability, storage availability, because I'm able to access my environment, but I'm not able to access my storage, okay? Or I'm able to access my environment, but my network is slow. So these kind of things really affect the overall environment, the performance of our application, the environment, what we're using it. So we have to look at the SLAs that belong to what kind of infrastructure in a data center. Is that SLA also given to us on a data center? Because if everything is up and data center there is maybe a fire or maybe a natural disaster or maybe a shutdown due to some reason, then it's affecting overall services of ours. So all that pointers we have to look at when we select a cloud service provider. With this, actually, these are some of the points which I want to be shared with you, and you have to also maybe note it down, these points, but these are the very critical points which you have to look at when you select any cloud service provider. And very careful when you select them, and also look at what kind of a disaster policies they have. Are they, if their data center shut down, they have their own disaster recovery system internally to give you continuous services, or are they bonding you to take a different DR environment? These are the different kind of points which you have to be looked at. With this, I will just end up with my session and pass it to my colleague Paditto, who will talk about CompTIA, and after that we'll do a Q&A.
Hi everyone, very good evening. And what I understood from what Dheeraj explained, I think he's given you a Bible for those people who are looking for a good cloud service provider, number one, and also for those people who are there as a cloud service provider, what are the points that your customers should be careful on. So just wanted to take a few more minutes of your precious time. Wanted to introduce a bit about our organization. We are CompTIA, Computing Technology Industry Association, one of the world's largest IT trade body, and also the largest developer of vendor-neutral certifications on various domains of IT, starting from hardware to networking and right up to cloud computing. So with context of the discussion of today, we would like to share a couple of things that we have, a couple of certification programs that we have. And as you see from the slide which is on your panel, We have 2,000 plus members and 3,000 plus training organizations who are partners of CompTIA, with offices headquartered in Chicago, and I'm there for the India office here, and I work as a regional director for this office. In terms of the cloud certifications, we have two programs. One is Cloud Plus, which is a vendor-neutral certification focusing on the technology aspects of cloud computing, and covers a lot of things what Dheeraj had just mentioned, but with a touch of technology out there. And in terms of the experience, we would like to talk to people who are about 2 years to 3 years of experience in networking, people who want to move into cloud area, people who want to know about cloud computing from a technology standpoint are the typical target audience for the IT professional. And I believe that this is the right career advancement for IT professionals, because most of the organizations have either started their cloud center of excellences or putting in sizable amount of investment in this domain. What it covers is obviously the concepts and models. It has a sizable amount of virtualization, resource management, security, which is most important, because almost all technology domains that we talk today cannot go unless you have a strong security element covered in this training and certification program. It has virtualization, and it also have how to continue your business in various cloud environment, in line with what Dheeraj has just mentioned. The other program that we have is a non-technical program. It's an overview of cloud computing called Cloud Essentials. When we first got into developing training and certification programs for cloud technology, we thought that the market does not have a lot of standardized vendor-neutral cloud competency certifications and trainings, and actually there are very few players who have really standardized the definitions of cloud. So we first launched the Cloud Essential program, which actually does this thing. It standardizes the knowledge that a person requires for a basic level of understanding in cloud computing domain. So therefore, what we say here is a bit different from the earlier Cloud Plus certification program, where we say that anybody even from the business lines, like the business analyst or a process owner or a sales and marketing staff for cloud products, they can go in for the certification because it covers very basic fundamental areas which are required for people of this domain to be aware of. So therefore, it covers the basic business values and explains the terminologies, and how you connect business and add value using cloud computing as a technology. So with these two programs, I'm sure that after the webinar, we will reach out to all the participants with the details of these certification and the training options that we have. And anyone of you who are interested to get in touch with us, we will be providing our contact details as well. With that, I'll just hand over once again to Dheeraj for a question-answer session for those people who have questions.
Thank you, Dheeraj. Thank you, Pradipto. Yes, we would request you to take up the questions now. Kindly read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to the commendable insights.
Okay, so I'll just pick up first question, which is raised by Rinish. Can you share information regarding security issues in cloud computing? So, okay, so obviously there are security issues in the cloud computing, which there's no issues. We have to look at when we look at a cloud computing service provider, what kind of a security they have, okay? How the environment is segregating from one environment to another environment, and what technologies they are using it. If you go more deep into this, you have to look at the cloud service provider, is a SOC certified or not. if they are SOC certified, that, or if they are at 27001 certified, then that means they have done actually a lot of things to segregate your environment. You can also do it by third-party audits and identify if there's any security problems into that. Okay. So in terms of the security issues, there are a lot of solutions and services available. With that, you can actually mitigate any kind of a security issues on the cloud environment. So I think I answered Dinesh. I also take up the next question, which is from Sandeep Shimpi, when he asked, with a reference to slide number 15, in these scenarios where legal restrictions can't be used, hybrid cloud or private cloud, where we have a direct control of a cloud. So, as I understand, this question is actually you're talking about the hybrid cloud or private cloud. Obviously, when the cloud service provider who is giving you the cloud services, if they have an offering where they're also giving you over the cloud dedicated environment, or they're giving you a hybrid environment where you can actually configure your dedicated servers and the virtualized servers together, you can actually bound them for the legally. Okay, you can bound them legally in terms of signing an agreement, or they should have a standard agreement which covers all these kind of scenarios. So it doesn't mean you can't bound that legally. It depends how you are working with a cloud service provider and working on the terms and conditions of the agreement. I'll also take up a next question, which is asked by Pavesh. For India government projects, India government project does not want a center in US and UK as it's hackable. Can the cloud server be available in India? Yes, there are a lot of cloud service providers which are based in India and providing the services which can be utilized for the India government projects perspective. So there's a wonderful question which is for Pradipto, where the Sandeep asked about, apart from VMware VCP certification, is there any entry-level certification you would suggest to make career in cloud? I'll just suggest Pradipto to answer that.
Sure. So Sandeep, and for all the other audiences, overall, there are two kinds of certifications which are available. One is vendor technology specific, which you have mentioned on your question here, which is like VMware. We also have vendor neutral certification, and when you're talking about entry level, vendor neutral certifications are much more valuable, because if you're going for a different job or if you're going for a promotion, what they would like to understand, what either your prospective employer or the current employer would want to know, how strong are you in the conceptual knowledge of cloud computing. And that's why we have developed two certifications, which I presented earlier. One is Cloud Essentials and another one is Cloud Plus, which gives you a fair bit of idea about the first one, which is Cloud Essentials, is non-technical in nature, but the Cloud 2 covers a sizable amount of virtualization as a concept. So therefore, yes, to answer your question, there are certifications available, and there are certifications available from CompTIA. And after this session, within the next 3 to 4 days, we will reach out to you, each one of you, with more details about these certifications, so that if you're interested, you can get in touch with us.
So this is Dheeraj. I'll take up a next question, which asked by Pavesh, how I can migrate from physical location to a cloud transition with the minimum efforts. It's actually all depend on what kind of applications and the environment you have at a physical site. It's really important to first understand that, and according to that, it can be a seamlessly, with the minimum efforts, you can migrate to a cloud. There are tools, migration tools are available, or there can be different services are available which help you to do a faster transition over the cloud. So one of a question which is asked by Balej VMS. Any cloud architecture training or cert is conducted by your organization? Do you have a schedule, and could you share the same? I'll just ask Pradipto to answer that.
Yes, Balesh. Yes, we do have. CompTIA as an organization develops the standard certifications and the exams. However, we have partners across the country who deliver training on these certification programs on regular basis. And like I mentioned once again, is that I'm reiterating once again for the entire group that we will be sharing you across with all the details and our contact numbers so that you can reach out to us and we can guide you depending on which location you are based out of in terms of where you can get the training and the certification. Thank you very much.
So with this, we are just ending it with a Q&A. Thanks for all of you to ask the different queries to us.
Thank you very much to all the participants, and hope you like the webinar. And we will be sharing our details very soon to you. You will receive it on the email ID that you have used for registering on this webinar, and you can get in touch with us directly. Even if you have some queries, you can send across to us, and then we'll try to answer you offline. Thank you very much for your attendance and time.
Thanks, all of you. Thanks, Dipti.
Thank you, Dheeraj. Thank you, Pradipto. Thanks for this insightful presentation. And we are really thankful to our guest speaker, Dheeraj, for conducting this webinar today. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a huge success. The recording will be available on techgig.com very soon. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, all of you.